When I bought my house, I knew the property came with a utility easement. The power company had legal access to part of my driveway and side yard. What I didn't expect was for the HOA to completely block that access. The easement had been recorded long before the neighborhood was built. It gave the electric utility company access to underground and overhead infrastructure. For years, nobody had questioned it. Then one morning, I noticed construction workers installing a massive decorative fence across the easement. The fence looked expensive and permanent, and it was being installed directly where utility crews needed access. I walked over and asked the crew supervisor who had authorized the installation. He said the HOA had approved the project. I immediately asked him whether anyone had checked the recorded utility easement. The supervisor admitted he had only received instructions from the HOA. Nobody had shown him a utility access plan. That was when I realized this could become a serious problem. I contacted the electric company and explained what had happened. The representative checked the property records. Then she told me their crews still had scheduled access through that exact location. The utility company confirmed the easement was still active. They told me that if emergency maintenance was needed, their crews could not simply be turned away. I asked what would happen if the new gate was locked. The answer was simple. The company would require access. I hoped the HOA would understand before anything went wrong. Instead, Karen Whitmore called me personally. Karen told me the fence was a neighborhood security improvement. I explained that security improvements couldn't simply erase a recorded utility easement. She said the HOA had already approved everything. I asked Karen for the engineering or utility access plan used before construction. She didn't have one. Instead, she told me the power company could contact the HOA if access was ever needed. I documented the conversation and sent everything to my attorney. We reviewed the recorded easement language together. The wording was clear. Utility access could not be obstructed. My attorney sent the HOA a formal notice. It explained exactly where the easement was located and why the new fence created an obstruction. We asked them to correct the problem voluntarily. For a few days, nothing happened. Then I noticed the HOA had installed an electronic lock on the new gate. That made the situation even more complicated. I called the utility company again. They told me they had an upcoming maintenance visit scheduled for equipment serving the neighborhood. The crew would need to use the easement. I warned Karen that the crew was coming. She insisted the gate would remain closed unless the HOA approved entry. I told her the utility company had its own legal access rights. The next afternoon, the utility truck arrived. 2 workers stepped out and inspected the gate. They checked their work order, then called their supervisor. Karen rushed outside and demanded that they stop. The utility workers calmly explained that they had a scheduled service order and documented access rights. Nobody wanted a confrontation, but the gate was still blocking their route. One of the workers inspected the gate mechanism carefully. The crew determined that waiting for HOA approval would delay essential maintenance. They prepared the proper professional equipment to create temporary access. Karen couldn't believe what happened next. The utility crew carefully cut through the newly installed gate so they could reach the easement. Sparks flew across the wet pavement as the HOA's expensive barrier finally came apart. The power company got through and completed the maintenance they had been scheduled to perform. The HOA had spent thousands building a gate that could never legally block the easement. And suddenly, Karen had a much bigger problem than a broken fence.